Hello everyone. Today in this video, I'm going to talk about what are the data types that are exist in SQL. Let's just focus on built-in data types. So the first data type is the numeric data type. The second one is floating numbers. Third one is strings. The fourth data type is date and time. So these four data types are nothing but built-in data types. When we talk about data types, we also have to talk about the shortcut that we can use to represent a particular data type. For example, when we say numeric data types, there are few categories in numeric data type. We have tiny int, the second one is int, the third one is big int. So these three are the categories in a numeric data type. And when we look at floating numbers, there are two more categories in floating numbers. The first one is decimal, the second one is float. And in the strings data type, we have three more categories, actually four more. The first one is char, second one is varchar, the third one is blob, the last one is text. And in the last, that is date and time data type, we have three more categories. The first one is date, second one is time, and the last one is date time data type. Okay, so I'll be explaining each of these in a greater detail. Let me just slide to the next page. Okay. Let me just explain about all the data types of built-in first, but we can give some heading like this. Here I'm keeping an heading that is data type. Also, the minimum size of a data type and the maximum size of a data type. Okay. Perfect. Let's talk about first, that is tiny int. This is tiny int. Now its minimum size, like it is the like the least size that we can pass to this tiny int is 0, and the maximum size that we can assign for a tiny int variable is 255. So this is the maximum size and this is the minimum size for tiny int data type. And the second one is we have int. When we say int, it is nothing but an integer. So it has its minimum size as minus 2147483 648. So this particular integer, this is the size, that is the minimum size that we can assign for any integer data type. And we also have a maximum size for integer data type, which is nothing but the same number but with a plus sign. 2147 483 648. So this is the maximum size that we can assign for any integer variable. Okay, let's talk about the third data type, that is big int. For a big int, the minimum size that we can assign for any big int data type is -9, comma 223, comma 372, comma 036, 854, comma 775, comma 808. So this is the minimum range which is in negative range. This particular range that we can assign for a big int data type is of minimum size. And what about the maximum size? It is the same number but with a plus sign. That is 9, 223, 372, 036, 854, 775, 808. So this is the maximum range that we can assign for any big int variable. Now that comes the fourth data type, that is decimal. We also have a decimal data type, and for which we can assign -10 to the hat 38 plus 1. So this is the minimum range that we can assign for any decimal kind of data type. And what about the maximum size? That is the plus 10 hat 38 minus 1. So this is the maximum range that we can assign. Now here it comes the float data type. For a float data type, we can assign a minimum size of 1 point. The minimum size for a float data type is -1.79 e plus 308. And the maximum size that we can assign for any float variable is plus 1.79 e minus 308. So this is the maximum and this is the minimum size that we can assign float. For example, if the size for our variable is going beyond 10 to the hat 38 minus 1, then we can choose this particular variable, that is float data type. So these are all the built-in data types, and apart from this, we also have another kind of data types which we'll be seeing more frequently while dealing with SQL problems. Okay, so the first data type is char. So what is meant by char? So char is always having a fixed length. So when I say fixed length, the maximum length that we can assign for this particular variable is 8,000 characters. Here, for example, in the I'm just saying it as an example. For example, for my variable, I have assigned this char of 10. I mean to say, and now the user inputs, the user enters some kind of name, for example, Akshay. So he has entered this particular name, that is Akshay. So how many digits it has? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So it's total of 6 characters. But when I say character of 10, then what happens? SQL reserves a total of 10 characters. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So this A, K, S, H, A, Y. So if the user enters this particular name, that is Akshay, that those 6 letters will get fit into this total of 10 characters, and the remaining 4 letters will be wasted, because when we say character of 10, it doesn't automatically fits that particular length. It just reserves the entire 10 characters for our purpose, and it's up to you if you want to use all the 10 characters or if you only want to use some part of 10 characters. That's up to you, but this char of 10 will always do its job dedicatedly. Imagine if I have said char of 20, it automatically creates or it automatically reserves another 10 spaces like this. Now it's up to use, like it's up to you whether you want to use all the 20 characters or you only want to use some part of the characters. It's up to you. But this is the use case of char data type. Now here it comes the next data type, that is varchar. What do you mean by varchar? Imagine you are saying varchar of 50. You have defined your varchar variable to be of 50 character spaces, but the user has entered only 3 letters, that is RAM. Now what happens? Out of 50, our MySQL only accepts these 3 characters, and the 50 minus 3, how much? 47. And these 47 characters will be free, and these 47 characters can be used for another purpose. So unlike character, like earlier I have explained what is meant by character, unlike char, it doesn't block all the characters that we have defined. Instead, it will only accepts the character that the user has entered. For example, if the user has entered only 3 characters, so out of this particular 50 characters, it will only block 3 characters, and the rest of the 47 characters are set to free, that we can use this particular 47 characters for any other purposes that we may want to use it in the future. Now, the third data type is blob. When I say blob, the full form of blob is binary large objects. So the full form of blob is binary large objects. Why is it actually used? We use blob data type to store any form of images. When I say images, let's example, we can consider our PAN card or Aadhaar card, such a kind of documents. Such a kind of documents we can easily store in such a data type, that is blob. Okay, now the fourth data type is text. What is meant by this text? It is having a variable length of, that is, it can store characters up to a maximum size of 1 GB data. So you may be thinking, like earlier I have already explained what is meant by char and varchar, and now this time I'm explaining what is meant by text. You may be wondering, we already have these two, and why do we want this particular data type, that is text? These 2 characters, that is char or varchar, are only used if you want to define any specific length of characters. For example, if you want to define any column names. When we say column names, it is only or it is only of limited size, right? For example, it may be of 10 or 12 in characters. But if we want to use this particular data type, that is text, we only use this particular data type, that is text, for a description kind of thing. For example, in the YouTube description or in a paragraph or an essay writing, imagine we are participating in an essay writing. Now, when I say essay writing, we have to write so and so paragraphs, like paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3. For such a kind of huge text, we can't use this particular char and varchar. We can't use them because their character size is of very limited. They can only afford up to 800 characters. But when we say essay writing, these particular paragraphs are actually going beyond 800 characters. So for this kind of a purpose, we have to use text data type, which can afford 1 GB of textual data size. So this is the use case for a text data type. Okay. So now we have the fifth data type, that is date. So everybody knows that when we say date, we usually starts with day. Like for example, today is 15th November 2024. We usually starts in this particular format. But here in MySQL, when we say date, the format usually starts with year first. After year, it usually starts with month, that is month number. And after month number, we can specify date, that is day. So if you want me to write this particular thing in the form of this thing, I can easily write 2024 hyphen 11, that is month number, that is November, hyphen 15. So this is a particular format which our date data type accepts. Now this is all about date data type. Now there is one more data type, which is the sixth data type, that is time. When I say time, it has its own format, that is HH colon MI colon SS. So for example, let's just have a look at the bottom of my screen, that is 116. Now the time is 116. So how to represent this 116 in the format of this thing? So I can easily say, when we say hours, I can easily say that now the time is 13. When I say 13, this is nothing but a railway format. So this is a railway time or 24 hours clock. So I can easily say now the time is 1 o'clock. So if you want to represent 1 o'clock in the 24-hour clock, so we can easily represent it as 13 colon. What are the minutes here? Now the minutes are 117, right? So we can easily say now the time is 117. Now you can keep maybe 00 as the second. So this is the accepted format. If you want to define any time variable, that this is the accepted format for a time data type. Now we also have another format, another data type actually. This time the name of the data type is date time, because earlier we have seen this particular data type, that is time. A time without a date is meaningless, right? For example, if you have defined a time with this particular time, that is 117, but how do you know that this time belongs to which day? Like, does this time belong to November 15, or does this time belong to November 14th, or what? We never know, like, when does this time belong to? So that's the reason we already have another data type as date time data type. In this date time data type, it can store information about, it stores information of date and time as well. For example, what is the format that it follows actually? That is year, 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 y, all four y's, and hyphen m, m, hyphen d, d, and also it has h, h, colon, m, I, colon, s, s. So this is the particular format that this particular data time accepts. So this is all about the data types that are exist in MySQL. That's it.